Think you know who runs America? You might be in for a shocking revelation. While politicians debate on television and we argue about elections, the real power players operate behind closed doors, controlling trillions of dollars and making decisions that affect every aspect of your daily life. Today, we're diving deep into the shadowy world of America's true power structure, and I guarantee what you discover will change how you view this country forever. Most people think democracy means we the people hold the power, but that's just the surface level. The reality is far more complex and, frankly, more disturbing. Let me take you on a journey through 4 different layers of control that actually run America, starting with the most obvious and working our way to the most hidden. First, let's talk about land ownership. You might think this is old news, but mega landlords still wield enormous influence over local politics and economics. Private owners control roughly 60% of all American land, which translates to about 1.3 billion acres. We're talking about families you've probably never heard of, like the Emersons, who control 2.4 million acres, or John Malone with his 2.2 million acres. Even tech billionaires are getting in on the action. Bill Gates has quietly accumulated over 200,000 acres of farmland across 18 states. In Nebraska alone, his Mount Edna Farms company controls over 20,000 acres. Why should you care? Because whoever owns the land controls tax revenue, voting districts, and resource allocation. If these holdings ever became tax-exempt nonprofits, entire counties could see their property tax revenues vanish, devastating local schools and services. But land ownership is amateur hour compared to our second layer of control, the banking system. Here's where things get really interesting. Back in November 1910, a secret group of America's most powerful bankers met on Jekyll Island to create what would become the Federal Reserve Act. This wasn't some conspiracy theory. This actually happened. JP Morgan, National City Bank, and other financial giants literally designed our monetary system in secret. Today, the Federal Reserve controls over $6 trillion and has the power to create money from nothing. Here's something that will blow your mind. Until March 2020, banks were required to keep 10% of your deposits in reserve. Now, that requirement is 0%. Banks can lend out every single dollar you deposit, creating money out of thin air under the Fed's guidance. The person who controls the money supply controls the country, and the president has no authority over the Fed chairman. The third layer gets even more fascinating. 3 asset management giants, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, control $23 trillion in proxy votes across 90% of the stock market. They're the major shareholders in 95% of American corporations. While they don't technically own all this money, they vote on your behalf when you can't attend shareholder meetings, which is basically always if you're a working person. Think about the power this represents. When these 3 companies vote together, they can influence who sits on corporate boards, what policies companies adopt, and how businesses operate. Charlie Munger once said about this concentration of power, "I think the world of them, but I'm not sure I want them to be my emperor." Now here's the 4th layer that most people completely misunderstand: national debt. America owes $36 trillion, but to whom? Foreign countries like China and Japan only hold about 30% of our publicly held debt. The biggest single holder, the Federal Reserve itself, with over $6 trillion on its balance sheet. If you own treasury bonds or have a pension fund that holds them, you actually own a piece of America's future tax revenue. Here's the catch though. Countries that hold large amounts of our debt can't just dump it without destroying their own holdings. It's like a financial Mexican standoff where everyone's incentivized to keep the system running. But here's what really matters. While we debate politics and argue about elections, these power structures operate regardless of who wins. Billionaire families spent $2.6 billion on federal races in 2024 alone. Both sides of the political aisle are funded by ultra-wealthy interests who have more influence over policy than your vote ever will. So, who really owns America? The answer depends on what you value most. Some people value political control, others value economic control, and still others value social influence. There's no single entity pulling all the strings, but there are definitely layers of power most people never see. The real question isn't who owns America, but what do you own? Your economic energy, represented by your time and skills, gets constantly diluted by those who control the money printer. That's why wealthy people convert their dollars into assets like stocks, real estate, and art. They've figured out how to preserve their purchasing power while yours gets quietly eroded. Understanding these power structures is the first step toward protecting yourself. Whether that's through traditional investments, alternative assets, or simply becoming more aware of how the system actually works, knowledge is your best defense against those who would control your economic future. The game is rigged, but it's not hopeless. Once you understand the rules, you can start playing by them instead of being played by them. But if you really want to see this play out in real time, don't miss our eye-opening deep dive into previous video. In that video, we unpack how a tiny shift in Japan's bond yields could obliterate portfolios worldwide, reveal the hidden leverage Japan holds over US debt, and show you exactly what it means for your money. Click the link on screen or in the description now. Your financial future depends on understanding Japan's next move.